Hi, everyone. Welcome to the virtual college exploration for all Pennsylvania students sponsored by PACAC, the Pennsylvania Association for College Admission Counseling. My name is David Weissport. I'm the Director of College Counseling at Winchester Thurston School in Pittsburgh. And this session is going to be with the University of Florida. During the session, your camera and microphone are going to be off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. To ask any questions, please use the Q&A button to type your questions. You're able to sign up for more questions at pacac.org/virtual. And the session is being recorded, and a recording will be made available after. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ginny and Lily from the University of Florida, who will be leading the discussion.
Hi, y'all. Thank you for joining us this evening. All right, so my name is Jeannie, like in a bottle, and like David said, I am the Regional Admissions Officer for University of Florida. I primarily work with students in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. I also have my colleague with me, Lily, who does cover the West Coast, and she will be able to help us with some Q&A towards the end. So during this presentation, I will talk a little bit about UF and Gainesville, just because I realize students haven't been able to visit campus. And then towards the end of the presentation, I will talk about what the admissions process looks like. So here we go. UF at a glance. Right now, we are ranked number 6 in top public universities in the nation, which means we give those students the resources to be successful during, but also after their college career. We do have a large student body on campus. We have about 56,000 students total, about 36,000 undergrad. About 14% of our students are out of state, and a good chunk of our out-of-state students are coming from the Northeast, so New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Long Island. So we do have a strong Northeast presence on campus. We do have a 97% freshman retention rate, which is higher than the national average of 88%. What this means is that students are making those connections within their major and gaining the knowledge to be successful, that they are coming back for their second year and also graduating with UF. We are your very traditional college town. So the best way that I can describe it for students in PA, it's kind of like Penn State. So our campus is in one location, and the whole city shuts down for game day. There's lots of school spirit and pride, and you'll always see people wearing blue and orange. And if you are wearing any Gator colors, even if you are in the airport, you'll always get a Go Gators. When it comes to UF, we do have over 120 different majors for students to choose from. And when you are applying to University of Florida, you're just applying to the college as a whole. So we are not looking at majors when we're making our decisions. So don't think if you pick one major over the other, you have a better chance of getting in. We're just not looking at that. We do that just because about 2/3 of our students do change their majors at UF, but also during your senior year, you may not know what you're going to be majoring in or what your interests are. So we don't want you to have to feel like you're stuck with the same major for all 4 years in college. We just added artificial intelligence, making us the largest supercomputer in higher education, and we're doing research in cybersecurity, healthcare, and also agriculture, just to name a few. But also leading into research, we had over $900 million worth of funding for research last year. This gives students the chance to do research if you'd like to, especially since we do have a Center for Undergraduate Research. I know when I was looking at colleges, I wasn't sure if I wanted to do research, but I wanted to have the option, and at UF you do. I say we have a very vibrant and active student life on campus, and that's because we have each year over 2,000 events happening on campus. So with that, we have guest lecturers. So we've had Bill Nye the Science Guy, Stephen King, Pitbull, to name a few. We also have over 1,000 clubs of student organizations. So if you really want to live out your Harry Potter dreams, you can play Quidditch. We do have the award-winning rock, paper, scissors team, a roller coaster design club, but also salsa. And we do have the professional and academic focus clubs. We have over 50 different types of intramural sports and club sports for students to partake in. So one of my favorite memories is being able to see the women's rugby team play against Temple in Philly 2 springs ago. So our clubs do come to the Northeast, so you are able to play some schools in the Northeast. So when it comes to some of these photos, I just want to talk a little bit about them, kind of give you other options and learn more things about UF. So when it comes to the person with the orange shirt and the shaving cream, that is our school president. I think he's a really rad guy just for a few reasons. So during graduation time, when students are taking photos for graduation, he loves to photobomb students, and you can always find him on Twitter, like photobombing students during this time. Also, last year, he did buy a class over 300 pizzas just because someone put down his name for a final exam question. And when on campus, if you ever see him, he's always willing to stop and take a photo with you. Underneath that, you are able to see our stadium. Our stadium fits just over 90,000 people in it. So it's you and a whole bunch of Gator fans enjoying the game. At the end of the third quarter, everyone sings this one song, and it's a very bonding moment. And even if you just happen to be at a restaurant and they're playing or they're showing the Gators game and there's other Gators in the restaurant, everyone will also sing this song. Underneath that, you are able to see our parade. So the Friday before homecoming, classes are canceled. So during the day, we do a really big parade that starts in downtown Gainesville, and they make their way to campus. And then at nighttime, we have what is called the Gator Growl. And with this, it's just a really big concert, and it is the largest student-run pep rally in the nation. So we usually have a musical artist. So we've had Passion Pit before, Ty Dolla $ign, and also Chase Rice, and some comedians like Kevin Hart, just to name a few. Next to that, you are able to see mopeds. Mopeds are a really popular way of transportation in Gainesville. So I tell students, if you really want to live out your European dreams without going to Europe, you could do that right here in Gainesville. We also do have free public transportation in the city of Gainesville and also on campus. You are able to bring your car if you'd like to, but realize you don't have to just because we do have the free public transportation. And then where you see that sunset, that is one of my favorite buildings on campus, and that is Century Tower. So every day at noon, a student within the music department will run up there and play a song, and it could be a wide variety of songs. So one time there's been Beyonce, you could hear a rock song, classical music, you never know what you're gonna hear. So every day at noon, it's always something different. And it's something that I always look forward to when I'm on campus. Here's just like a bird's eye view of campus. Just because I know not everyone's able to visit campus, I just wanna point out some hot spots so then you know where most of our students are interacting. So Plaza of Americas is our really big open space on campus. Here you'll be able to find a lot of clubs and organizations. So if you want to become active, this is a great place to start. Also, there's usually some type of free food there. Also, if you do want to just do homework outside, you could do that. Up in the left corner, you are able to see the Rights Student Union. So there is a lot of offices in there, such as like study abroad or our career services. So you are able to just kind of do a lot there. Also, there is a wide variety of restaurants in there, and we don't get the name The Swamp without a little bit of rain. So we do have a movie theater on campus. So if you want to escape the rain and want to watch a movie, you don't have to go too far because we do have a movie theater on campus. Right across from that is our football stadium. I just really like to showcase this just so that students know they don't have to go too far for football games. Our football stadium is right on campus, and our stadium is open. So if you like to exercise, you're able to run the stairs, or if you just happen to visit campus, you can go and take photos in there if you'd like. You just can't step foot on the field. Now that I talked a little bit about campus, I want to talk a little bit about Gainesville itself. So when it comes to Gainesville, we are located in North Central Florida. So right where you see that blue star, we are smack dab in the middle of the state. So we are about an hour away from each coast. When it comes to Gainesville, we do have our own airport. So you are able to fly in and out. and our airport is about 10 to 15 minutes away from campus. I make this commute about twice a year in a normal year, so I'm very familiar with that route. But if you don't want to fly in and out of Gainesville, we are about 2.5 hours away from Disney or Orlando, about an hour, hour and a half away from Jacksonville, about 2.5 hours away from Tampa. I'm a New Yorker, so I can usually make it there in less time than that. But a lot of people do retire in Florida, so you never know how long it will really take. Our downtown area is about a 10-15 minute walk from campus. So where most of those buildings that I showed you in the last slide, it's about 10 to 15 minutes. So in our downtown area, I like to tell students it's very cute and quaint, kind of reminds me of like a Gilmore Girls vibe. So you will be able to find a lot of local restaurants and boutiques. You won't find a lot of chain restaurants there. There's always live music happening, and we do have farmers markets during the week and on the weekends for students. But if you want to escape campus and also this downtown area, we do have a lot of nature preserves and springs. So where you see that green photo, there's a lot of trails. That's a very popular natural park that students go to. And there you're able to see, of course, beautiful sunsets, some alligators, but I think coming from the Northeast, one of the best things is being able to see wild horses just out roaming around. Underneath that, you are able to see our springs. So of course, you're able to swim if you'd like to. Some of them do allow you to float the spring, but depending on your major, you are able to do research or be able to get that hands-on experience without having to go to the beach. Next to that is Lake Wahlberg. Here is where you could really do a lot of those outdoor activities if you'd like to. So if you want to learn how to canoe or kayak, or you already do, you're able to do that. We do have an outdoor climbing and bouldering wall. There are trails to go mountain biking, but also sand courts for volleyball. Above that, we do have the largest bat houses in the world. So every night when the sun goes down, you're able to see them do their thing. We do a lot of research with the bats, but they also help with pests. And then where you see that ladder going to the blue, that is called Devil's Den. So if you ever look up what are some of the top things to do in the state of Florida, this is going to be one of them. And you're able to snorkel or scuba dive. I don't think this picture does it justice because the water is so blue. I just like to showcase what there is to do in the city of Gainesville, just because yes, there's campus, but you should be able to know what you're going to be doing on the weekends if you'd like to. Now I'll talk about like UF, the admissions process, but also a few different programs. So there are a few different ways, different pathways to UF, and here are a few of them. So we do have Innovation Academy. When it comes to Innovation Academy, this program is unique just because students will take classes during spring and summer. So that means your fall is completely free. So you could do research if you'd like to, or internships. Within this program, you do graduate with a minor in innovation. This program provides a lot of hands-on learning, smaller class sizes. So we had one student in this program that did an internship with Seth Meyers on his late night show during the fall. So I think this provides a lot of flexibility for those fall internships. When it comes to the honors program, you will fill out that application through the either the coalition or the common application. And then we also do have the PACE program, which is Pathway to Campus Enrollment. So the way that this program works is the first 2 years are online, and then you will transition to campus for your last 2 years. The first 2 years, it may not be a full 2 years depending on how many credits you have. So if you do have AP or dual enrollment or even IB, it may not be a full 2 years. And then when you graduate, it doesn't say that you are part of this PACE program. So it's not something that you have to worry about being on your degree or anything like that. Then when it comes to UF, there are 3 different deadlines when it comes to the application process. So even if you happen to be a junior, these dates don't change. So this is still going to be applicable for you. So November 1st is our priority deadline. When it comes to this deadline, I tell students consider this a hard deadline. And that's just because if you apply after November 1st, it's as space opens up, which usually doesn't happen, and we don't do a wait list. So you just want to make sure that your coalition or the common application is in by November 1st. December 1st is the next deadline, and that is where you will self-report your academic record. So this is where you will tell us the types of classes you're taking and the grades that you got. When it comes to senior year, we're just going to be asking the types of classes you're taking, and you're just going to tell us those are in progress. We do that just so that we can make sure that you're sticking with the rigor and just not taking 8 periods of study hall. If you happen to be applying to any other universities like Rutgers or University of Pittsburgh or Penn State, they use a different system that is very close to ours, or it sounds pretty close to ours, but it's different. So if you are applying to any public Florida university, we use this system. So you should only have to do this application once. Then December 15th is where official test scores need to be in. So we are still requiring the SAT or the ACT. With having such a later deadline, this does allow you to take those tests in November and December if you'd like. We do recommend requesting those scores to be sent when you are taking those tests, just so then you don't miss deadlines. If you reach all 3 of these deadlines, everyone finds out the same day if they get in, which is the last Friday in February. We do that after school, so then that way you can be in your safe space and not around other people, and that way you're not distracted during school. When you're looking at those scores, that is our middle 50%. So the way that I could describe that is, think of a bell curve, and at the top of the curve, those are the scores that we're pulling for this slide. This year, we do realize student scores are going to be lower than what you see as the SAT and the ACT. It's okay. We realize that students haven't been able to take the test as many times as usual, so we understand test scores are going to be lower. If you happen to be able to take 2 or more tests, we do super score, so just send us everything, and then we will take care of that on our end. When it comes to the GPA, that is weighted and recalculated. We do this just because we don't want to give any student an advantage or disadvantage during the admissions process. By recalculating it, and this allows us to make sure everyone is on the same playing field, just because your school is different than Florida than California. But we also realize that students are a lot more than just their grades and their academics during the admissions process. So we're going to be looking at everything. So the essay, activities, and involvement, but also those supplemental essays. So when it comes to the essay, you can have fun with it and be as creative as you like. So I've had essays talk about how she compared herself to a pineapple, and how on the outside she has the shell and she could be spiny, but once people got to know her, she was really soft inside. I also had one student compare their life to Starburst, and saying how at the beginning of her junior year she felt like the orange Starburst because no one really likes orange. She just felt like no one liked her. But then by the end of her senior year and starting college, she wanted to end up like the yellow Starburst, because to her, yellow showed confidence, it was out there, and it made her think that you can't be stopped and you are seen. Or I've also had a student say how he was Captain America and all of his other friends were these other Marvel heroes. So you can have fun during the application process. Then when it comes to activities and involvement, you just want to be as descriptive as possible for 2 reasons. One, we don't do admissions interviews, so consider your application like an interview. And then also, we also use this application for scholarships, so you won't have to do another application for scholarships. And when you do submit your application, no changes can be made. So just make sure you're really looking at it, or if you're waiting to hear back from a scholarship, make sure you can wait. Just make sure your application is in by November 1st. And that's all that I have. This is my contact slide. Of course, you can take a screenshot of it or a photo or not. I will never know if you never took my information. But now we have time for question and answers.
If you do have questions, you can go ahead and pop those in the chat. Like Jeannie said, my name is Lily Lakowski, and I also work for the University of Florida. So I'm going to be helping to answer any of your questions. I will also say too, I attended the University of Florida. I graduated back in 2015, so I was a student there not too long ago. So if you have questions that are directed to someone who attended not too long ago, I'd be happy to try to answer those for you as well. But if you do have any questions, please do go ahead and put those in the chat now. So the first question is about scholarships when applying to UF. I will go ahead and say that when you apply, we automatically review you for scholarships based on a holistic application review. So you don't need to submit any additional information to us. We're automatically going to consider you for one of our merit-based scholarships for out-of-state students. So that is how that works. I would say that it is always a good idea to apply for any and all scholarships, not just ones that we as a university might offer you. I will say that our scholarships are kind of few and far between for out-of-state students, so not to rely on one of those, but they do exist. They come in 3 tiers. There's an $8,000, a $16,000, a $20,000 a year tier for those scholarships, but they're quite competitive. So that's kind of what that looks like. But definitely do apply for any scholarships you qualify for. They have all different kinds of scholarships out there. You can search them for free online. That's kind of the biggest piece of advice I would give my past self, would just be apply for all scholarships, because they have some really kind of interesting ones. Like, do you have a dog? Are you over 5'7"? There's probably a scholarship that exists for you. So as far as tuition and fees, since we're going to kind of talk about scholarships and how you're actually going to pay for school. So our cost of attendance, which is including everything, so your books, your everything under the sun, not just your tuition, is around $43,000 a year. For out of state, our tuition is around $28,000, just as that piece. So that's kind of what it looks like. 43, like I said, those scholarships do exist, but 43 is kind of our whole entire cost of attendance. That varies depending on student, depending on where you're living, that kind of thing. I will say that the cost of living in Gainesville in particular is quite cheap compared to some other areas in the country. So that's something that you might also want to consider too, is that your rent is probably going to be a lot cheaper. Your food, your groceries, that kind of thing may be a little bit cheaper than what you pay now living where you live. But that's kind of what it looks like. It's around $43,000 a year. As far as healthcare and physiology, yes, we have many majors. Like Jeannie mentioned earlier, we have over 120 different programs. We also do have a hospital on our campus. It's currently the #1 hospital in the state of Florida, Shands. So it's a great place to do internships, to volunteer if you're looking to go into a healthcare field. We do also have pre-health tracks. So there's not one dedicated pre-health major. You can major in anything really. You can major in anthropology and still go on to be a doctor. So we have pre-health advisors who are going to help you get on a track depending on what your interests are. Like I said, you could really be in any kind of college on our campus looking to go into a pre-health track, and that is still something that can work for you. But yes, we do have those majors and those programs that are going to help you do those things. And yes, we do look at applications that are not necessarily 4.0 and higher. That number, that 4.4 to the 4.6, is our middle 50. So there's on a bell curve, there are 25% still below that, as well as 25% above. We do weight and recalculate too, based on our scale. So that's another thing to kind of say. You say you have a 3.7. So if you have a GPA that is maybe not within that 4.4 to the 4.6 middle 50 range, it's probably going to look a little bit different on our scale once we recalculate. So that's something to keep in mind as well. We're only taking your core classes into consideration, that kind of thing. We're adding extra weight for your honors and your AP and your IB and your dual enrollment. So your GPA may actually be higher on our scale depending, but that's something to definitely keep in mind. Also, we review applications holistically, so that GPA is not the only thing that we're looking at. We're looking at you as an entire person. So it's not just, you know, one thing is going to make or break you. If your GPA is a little bit lower than our middle 50, don't be like, oh, I'm not going to get in, because that's definitely not true. We also consider consider, you know, your essay, all those supplemental questions you'll add, basically what makes you a whole person. So.
And then I also want to add, as to what Lily said, is one thing to just kind of, I'd like to tell my students in the Northeast is that students in the state of Florida are able to take AP and dual enrollment courses a lot sooner than some schools in, or most students in the Northeast. So that's also why the GPA is a little higher, because they're able to start their freshman year taking those AP or dual enrollment courses. So that's also why the GPA is a little higher, because they are able to start that for 4 years, unlike 2 years where most of the schools in the Northeast are able to.
We also only look at you in the context of the school that you're applying from too. So we're not going to compare you to a student who was able to take those classes, you know, as soon as they entered high school or that kind of thing. We're only looking at you in the context of your high school. And also my most favorite myth to bust is that it's no more difficult to get in if you're coming from out of state than it is for in-state students or residency blind. We review applications. So you're not going to have any kind of a disadvantage applying to the University of Florida coming from out of state.
Thank you, Lily. We have time for a few more questions. I do like to also tell students that we do not require you to live on campus if you don't want to that first year. So don't think you are required to live on campus. When it comes to the application process, right after you apply to UF, you will get an email about housing to do it. I do recommend doing the housing deposit just because we also do not guarantee housing. But we usually really work with students to make sure they are able to get housing. If you are really picky and if you want a certain resident hall, you will want to do that sooner, just because the way that the housing works, it goes based off of when you do your housing deposit, not when you apply to UF. So it's pretty much like a first come, first serve.
There's also a question about, can freshmen have cars? The answer is yes, you are able to bring a car to campus as a freshman. So that is something that you can do, but I don't think that you need a car personally. There are many different locations for you to easily shop for things. There's also the bus system that runs for free with your student ID, so you can always get around that way. Parking can be kind of a pain, definitely, and just because you get a parking decal doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to park right outside your residence hall. So it really is just going to kind of depend on where you're living. If you're living on campus, I would say bringing a car is not the best idea because you might have to park really far away. And like I mentioned before, there's a Publix, which I think is the best grocery store. I miss Publix every day of my life living outside of the state of Florida. There's a Publix, and there's also a Target really, really close to campus. So you can get all your groceries, all of your kind of toiletry needs, and clothes. I mean, Target has everything, right? And you don't have to worry about, having to go all across town. But like I said before too, there's the bus system. So that goes to Butler Plaza, which is kind of on like the other side of town, a little bit away from campus, but that has everything you'll need. There's a Walmart over there. There's a larger Target over there. So wherever you're kind of needing to shop, you can definitely access very easily via the bus system. But I would encourage you not to bring a car to campus, just because I think, like I said, I think it's more of a hassle than it's worth, especially as a freshman.
So, we did say out-of-state tuition is a $43,000 for out-of-state for books. That is also including housing. So the estimate for housing is right around $10,000, and that's including housing and meals. This can vary just depending if you decide to pick the brand new resident hall. It may just be a little more expensive than maybe an older one just because of the amenities, but also it really does depend on your meal plan too, because we have a couple different levels for you to choose when it comes to meal plans. But 10,000 is pretty much a good rough estimate of what housing would be on campus.
Yeah, the 43 number is the total cost of attendance, so including everything. So tuition is just 28, just only tuition. And then those other numbers could change depending on how much you're spending. That kind of rhymes.
All right. So thank you both. And this, feel free to sign up for more sessions on the PACAC website, pacac.org, and a recording of the session will be made available soon. So thanks to Jeannie and Lily for joining us and talking about University of Florida, and hope everyone has a great night.
Have a good one. Thank you for joining us, and go Gators.
Go Gators, stay safe, everyone.